been extremely rewarding because, what happens is when you do this kind of work, you become a part of the story. You become part of the history. You don't realize it at the time, but people years from now will be like, oh, and, was involved. And so, yeah, there's always that opportunity. And there's no better story for me to be a part of, I think, because in this story, this is when the two races became one. And it was a success story, and it was an American success story. And people from all over the world want to learn how to do that because ethnic conflict is at the root of so much of the trouble that we have here today. And so this gives us some clues of how we can be one people, one United States, united.
Oh, you got to come and see what we have. From first floor, we start with some of the artifacts that were given to us. Ted Doubleduty's bat that he autographed for us. We've got a bat with a lot of signatures on it, so many of them, and I believe that all those signatures from players who are now deceased. We also illustrate and highlight the first Colored World Series that took place in 1924 in Kansas City, Missouri. But we need you to come and see some of the baseballs that have different names on them, like the ABCs, a weird name, the Atlanta Black Crackers, the Newark Eagles, the Baltimore Eli Giants. If you compare the players of yesterday's to the players of today, number one, they didn't make much money, but they played for the love of the game. Now these guys are making mega bucks. The guys who are playing baseball today are standing on the shoulders of those guys who pioneered back in the day. For example, everybody knows Satchel Paige, but do you know Leon Day? Leon Day was a Hall of Famer. He was the 12th inductee into Cooperstown. He was very mild-mannered. He wasn't one-dimensional. He did everything except back catch. I use the word terminology back catch because today's terminology is the word catcher, but I use back catcher. These guys could play. For example, the fastest Negro League player in baseball, Cool Papa Bell. Cool Papa Bell had a storyline where Buck O'Neill used to say that he could get into bed before the light goes out in the room. Well, that really took place, but I cannot tell you the storyline. I want you to research that to find out yourself. One of the pitchers that pitched and relieved Satchel Paige that people don't know about was Hilton Smith. Satchel had a reliever. Satchel used to pitch maybe 3 or 4 games, get in his Cadillac, drive to another town, and start pitching again. But now, in 2023, I'm so gratified to see that Major League Baseball has woken up, and they've also put the stats from 1920 to 1948, and they're now Major League ball players. And it's American history, not just Negro League history.
If you only get one side of the story, it's hard to resolve any conflict. And so racism is a sort of a conflict, and you need to hear both sides before you can really make a judgment or anything. And so that's why we think it's important, because this is what happened to the Native Americans. If you only get one side, if you only get John Wayne, that's all you know. And so it's really important to hear the story because it's inspirational. We always look at the trouble and the problems that we have now, and then when we look back at what these guys faced, our problems don't seem as big anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, so we have to, remember how fortunate we are.
Players back in the day, Miss Geraldine Day in particular, the wife of Leon Day, used to tell me when these guys would go to towns, they couldn't stop. They had to keep going. They took bird baths because they had no place to shower. They also, when they wanted something to eat, they couldn't go on the front door. They had to go on the back door. They had a hard life. But they endured because they knew that down the road there was some light. And that light is beginning to show in today's world. But these ball players could not only play well, but they were college material, they were inventors. Some of those players invented the helmet, and they had to invent the shin guards. Number one, to keep the ball players from sliding into them on purpose with their feet out with metal spikes. But they were the best of the best. And there's so many blue-collar ball players that have been forgotten. You have the common name, the well-known name, Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, the home run king of all times. Now, some books say he hit 800 home runs. You wouldn't want to be up close to him as an infielder because he'd take your head off. Ted Doubleduty Radcliffe, I met him at 103 years old. He was a catcher back in the day. There were other outfielders, for example. Willie Mays played in the Negro League. Hank Aaron come out of the Negro League. Ernie Banks come out of the Negro League. And these guys were professional ball players, and they're all in the Hall of Fame. I could go on and on with the stories of those ball players who rooted themselves in the Negro League first, and then they made it to the Hall of Fame. Oh yes, the women per se. I had the fortunate to meet Mamie Peanut Johnson before she passed away. She was a pitcher. There's a storyline why they call her Peanut. What happened was she was on the mound. This ball player from the Negro League stepped out of the box and told her, looked at her and said, "You can't strike me out because you're no bigger than a peanut." And that's how she got the name. From what I understand, when he got back in the batter's box, I think she intentionally threw one at his head. And I believe she did strike him out. There were two other ball players, Tony Stone, who was the better out of the three, and Connie Morgan. Tony Stone also played for the Kansas City Monarchs. There is a book out called We Are the Ship. It's a very colorful Negro League book. There are a lot of books out on the Negro League history. You have a device in your hand now, a phone. You can pull everything up and anything up that you need to know about Negro League history, and you can come and be an ambassador here at the museum with me.
A lot of the science has proven that showing gratitude is an antidote for depression and feelings of loneliness and anxiety and stuff like that. And when you come to this museum, you can't help but feel a sense of gratitude that these guys did what they did, and they did it in such an honorable and classy way. It's an inspiration for all of us. And once you catch that fire, you want to share it with someone else, you know what I mean? Because it's just it's an amazing vision.